So we launched on this device, and that was our second or our bigger hockey stick moment. Right? On the day we launched the JioPhone, we had 120,000 installs in 24 hours. We put up a big projector in our office, and when counting down when it reached 100,000, because it was going up every minute. So it was a very exciting moment. But of course, 120,000 on day one, and it was not just a one-off and it slowed down. That growth is sustained. We get about a 1.5 million to 2 million installs on Jio every month. Hi everyone, I'm Arshan, co-founder and CEO of Enguru. Welcome to Backstage with Millionaires. Today I'm going to talk about our journey of trying to create an accessible and affordable English language tool and scaling it up to 25 million users across India. So yeah, I grew up in Bombay. Was born and brought up in Bombay, and I was very fortunate. I went to a very good school in Bombay. I really enjoyed my childhood. But one thing was that's impacted a lot of what I've done post that was my mom has run an NGO for the last 25 years. And I think we always grow up with an awareness of the lack of opportunity globally, but of course in India specifically is very high. So we grew up volunteering quite a lot outside school, etc. And it's been a big part of growing up in India, right? To make sure that you're aware of just how lucky we are. So that was inculcated for me from quite a young age, both me and my brother and my sister, the three of us. So that really impacted when we grew up, and in school then I started a few initiatives working with different NGOs and over the weekends and after school, etc. So I kind of grew up with always inkling that education was something that I wanted. I truly believed was something that could really get someone out of poverty. It really empowers someone as opposed to just give them 1 or 2 meals. Right? I think it's something that can change their lives. So with that, we were in school. So I went to a school in Bombay called Cathedral School. In our school, we had this house system, which is quite popular in India. And I think the most relatable thing, even though I'm not a big Harry Potter fan, would be the house system, the houses in Harry Potter. But essentially, we were split into 4 houses, the entire school. So about 150 kids in each house, and you competed on everything. And from everything, I mean from sports like football to cricket to if you came late to school, you got a negative point for your house. If you were badly dressed or your hair was long, you got a negative point for the house. So they kind of put everything onto. It was a good way of getting the school itself to correct their juniors to make sure that everyone was in line, and all activities, right? So swimming, football, debates, etc. You name it, there was a internal house competition. So in my final year in school, I was the house captain of my house. So like I said, there were 4 houses. Our house was notorious for being last always. So for us first 4 years that I was in school, we came last. There was a running joke that our house had not won the first place prize for over 30 years. So it was really always between either 3rd or 4th, right? And in our year, for us it was life and death. Right now, when you look back on it, it was just a school system, but for us it was life and death. We kind of spent all of our time preparing for these different activities. And in our year, the other house captains happened to be my best friends. So the other house captain was one of my best friends, and all 4 of us were good friends. And ironically, then finally we won for the first time in 30 years, and it was a big deal for me at that moment. It was a big deal. But the whole process of that whole year was, I think, my first entrepreneurial journey. Right? So you're a team of 150 people where you are working on motivating them to go that extra mile. Whether it was in a race, whether it was making sure that you prepare for things on time, etc. And it was a big team, right? 150 people across an age group of about 13 to 17. Different strategies. You have to work on kind of getting people motivated in different ways. Different people react to different things. So it was my first time dealing with so many people and being a leader. So I think it really helped me develop over the years, and I really feel that when I look back on it, at the time I of course didn't notice it, but I think when I look back on now becoming an entrepreneur, this was definitely my first entrepreneurial journey. And then post that, I went to America to study. I went to UPenn. I did a dual degree at Penn Engineering and Wharton in business and finance. During my time there, I think one of the extracurricular things I did, which was linked back to India, was I was part of the Penn Microfinance Club. And I launched the India initiative of the Microfinance Club, which was essentially finding an MFI here and sending a group of about 10 to 15 kids over a summer to work in that MFI. It was an extremely enriching experience because we got a chance to reach out to the MFIs, That time I wasn't as familiar with microfinance, and then it's something I learned a lot more about, and got a lot of hands-on experience having to work with these, even though it was only a month or so. So I think, and then what I was very happy to see is that post-graduating, even now when I see the Facebook page, etc., it's grown from strength to strength. And now they work with multiple MFIs, and they're sending various delegations down to India, India being one of the biggest ones now, India and Bangladesh. So I think that's been great. And that's one of the things that stood out for me in when I was at Penn, kind of linking to back to India. There was a lot of thought then to stay back and work in America. This experience was part of why that eventually I want to come home. I feel like the work is, the environment here is a lot more exciting, and this was one of the experiences that led to that India is where I am most excited by things, right? So I think, and of course, getting on the ground in the MFI space was very enriching. So that was something that a pen that kind of stood out and helped me go through my path of coming back home. So post graduating, I moved straight back, and I joined an e-commerce startup called Hopscotch. And when I joined them, it was just the founders and me. I was the very first employee. We were working out of one of the founders' living rooms. Very exciting, right? They were two founders, one American, one Indian. They were working in a large company called diapers.com, and just sold to Amazon. And then they wanted to come to India, and they were excited by the Indian market. So they had vast experience. When I say sold to Amazon, they sold for about $500 million. So it was they'd gone through, and they were the early employees in that startup. So they had vast experience. I learned from them a lot. But most importantly, I built a team from the ground up, right? We hired the first set of people together. We worked with a tech-based, China-based tech team, which was very challenging but very exciting at the same time. So it was extremely exciting working with Hopscotch, and quite a technical role because I was a product manager. I used to spend my weekends. I launched an initiative called Project Vahana. And Project Vahana was essentially a mentorship initiative, and the goal over there was we want to help kids or adolescents get employment, gainful employment, right? So people who do not go to college, say 10th pass or 12th pass or diploma graduates, help them find jobs. So we started this initiative with just a few friends on the weekends, and we were helping them find the job and then prepare for the interview. It was usually in, say, restaurants or hotels, etc. And it was going well. One of the big things we found was preparing them from the interview, getting them to speak English. Even though they spoke decent English, but as soon as you put it in an interview setting, they got very nervous. And of course, they weren't extremely fluent in English, and all these jobs require English. And that was kind of my aha moment that English is the language of business in India, and a big part of kind of a glass ceiling where you cannot go above if you don't speak English. And it's very unfair because all these guys study in their local languages and are then forced to work in English. So it was kind of an aha moment that, English is something we can formally build something or build a sustainable product that addresses this issue. And that's kind of where the whole idea of King's Learning was born, that we can attack this formally, and we can actually do it in a way where we're helping people get jobs. It'll be and actually build a sustainable company out of it. So as that happened, it was in hands with my roommate at Penn. His name is Tahem. He now lives in San Francisco. He was living in India, and he was working in the education space and working with various colleges and trying to pitch to them various different programs, and finding it difficult to crack that, and people not being open to change. And I kind of reached out to him saying, would you like to be a mentor in Project Vahana? And then that's when we got chatting, and he said, let's do this more formally. I've got an experience of working in colleges. I've got an experience in the education space since I graduated. Let's join hands and attack this more formally. So that's kind of where we took the plunge. I left Hopscotch. I decided to take the plunge with time, and we packed our bags from Bombay, moved to Bangalore, and started what was at the time King's Learning. And when we started King's Learning, I think the goal from day one has always been access to employability focused, affordable English learning. That's always been what we want to give to people, right? We want to create extremely accessible English language training, high quality English language training. But when we started out, we weren't sure what was lacking in the current system, what technology would work. Would it be technology? Would we have to build a large offline business, etc.? So we started with an offline business in Bangalore, where we set up a physical center in partnership with a college, but anyone could come in and do an intensive English course. And it served as kind of like a research and development of what is lacking in the current system, who are the people who want to learn English, what is the business model you can build around, etc. So for a full year we did that. While doing that, we came up with a few key learnings before launching our first tech product. So those key learnings were, yes, English is a high demand in India. Everyone wants to learn English. Everyone knows it's important for their jobs. However, they are impatient. They want it to be immediately impacting their careers, right? Telling them it'll help you in 5 to 7 years is not something that works. So immediate impact is important. Second is certification. Being able to get a certificate and saying that I got this, something tangible from doing a course, is extremely important from our audience, we found. And then third, which was most suspected and has only been multiplied over the years, is the touch point of internet for these people is the mobile. So that is extremely important. So using those three key learnings, we launched our first Android app called Enguru in the middle of 2015. We launched as an Android only app. It was available in English and it was a conversational tool. So it helped you learn English, and that was kind of trying to address the immediate benefit. So we said we'll build it for different careers. So the first career we focused on was retail, which is the most generic customer facing career. So we focused on retail, and you go through different conversations where you're talking to customers, colleagues in a retail store, trying to pick up the vocabulary and the grammar that goes into working in a retail store. We launched it on day 3. We were number 3 on the top new free apps. So we saw a great response. However, what we did see was that we saw a very high drop-off rate. People were struggling to access the app, and we had an analytics tool that allowed us to see where they were pressing, etc. They were unable to understand what to do next. So it made us realize that people don't speak enough English to use this app. So the second big thing that happened at Enguru was realizing we need to go vernacular completely. So we then launched, towards the end of 2015, we launched what we call Enguru 2.0, where we launched it in 12 Indian languages. At the moment, now we've expanded to 28 languages, 12 of them Indian and some other Asian languages as well. But it opened up a very broader audience for us. Anyone who does not speak English now could use our app. We are teaching very basic English from your regional language. So that gave us kind of a hockey stick moment in terms of growth. All this while the Enguru app was free, right? Enguru app was free. We had then scaled up when I said 5,000 a day. We had crossed 1 million users towards the end of 2016, but it was still completely free. So then what we did was we realized that there was big potential to work with companies to train their staff. So we built a second app called Enguru for Enterprises, which worked directly with companies. So for example, Trent, all the West Side stores, Godrej Nature's Basket, Oberoi Hotels, so your hotels, retail stores, and a lot of vocational training institutes like Tata Stripe, NGOs like Magic Bus. We worked with them to train either people, job seekers, who then English will help them get a job, or they're already in the job and English is becoming more important and the employer recognizes that and is willing to invest in this. So we built these training programs. And that's still currently our primarily monetization strategy and a lot of what my partner Udit handles. And in parallel, I was still focusing on how do you get that 1 million to 50 or 100 million, right? We need to get to that number to build a sustainable business over here. So we were trying to figure that out. And there are a few things where we were lucky and the ecosystem changes in India, right? So I think one of the big ecosystem changes in India was the launch of Jio. That was something that changed a lot of our technical product, that we could start using videos, we could start offering live classes with teachers, which we could charge students for, etc. And there was a vast new opportunities through the access to data and data becoming so much more affordable. That was one. And then second, specific to us, is we actually partnered with Jio to be available on their Jio phone device. So to give you a little bit of context, the Jio phone device is an internet enabled feature phone. So it's a feature phone if you think about your old Nokia phones. It's a feature phone with a T9 touchpad, not a touchscreen, a small screen, but it has internet now. They built a 4G enabled feature phone. It does not run on Android, it runs on another operating system called KaiOS. But this would be a perfect audience for us, which was our pitch to Jio as well. There's huge synergy. Most of these people are English is very aspirational in India, and people are using this phone are bound to be the same audience who wants to learn English. So we launched on this device. And that was our second or our bigger hockey stick moment, right? On the day we launched the Jio phone, we had 120,000 installs in 24 hours. We put up a big projector in our office, and when counting down when it reached 100,000, because it was going up every minute. So it was a very exciting moment, but of course 120,000 on day one, and it was not just a one-off and it slowed down. That growth is sustained. We get about 1.5 million to 2 million installs on Jio every month. And now Enguru in total has grown to 25 million plus user base, split about 5 million on Android and about 20 million on Jio. So Jio, through the 1 year it is launched, has already gone 4 to 5x the Android volume, purely because of the access and the number of people you're reaching out to, and of course the lack of options they have. Everyone is not building for them. While Android, we are competing with multiple other apps. On Jio, you are not. So So for us, it was a great situation, win-win. We were reaching out to the perfect audience. We were able to scale up very fast because there wasn't much competition there. So that was our second big hockey stick moment, and I think a key moment in enguru. Second, the third thing which was important was, of course, this was a business where it required capital, right? And as we had bootstrapped it till a point, but as we were reaching out to millions of users, your server costs are more expensive, your marketing budgets are more, it became difficult to run when there was no monetization coming in yet, and it was all a longer business model. So we started interacting with a lot of the VC community in India, looking to raise funds. And finally, we closed our seed funding of $2.5 million from Michael and Susan Dell Foundation. And I thank my stars every day that is how it panned out, because the Michael and Susan Dell Foundation have been perfect investors in terms of alignment of visions. And I think that's very important with investors, right? So they are an impact-based fund. They work with us a lot on ensuring our product teaches English, ensuring that after doing our course, you are getting a better outcome, whether it's a higher salary, whether it's a new job, which is eventually what we started this for, right? I think you can reach out to people and you can build a very big company on it, but at its core is making sure every user is benefiting. And very often that gets lost when you're really trying to reach out to millions of users. And I think that's where having an investor where the visions are completely aligned and they are making sure you are tracking that, and they're making sure you're not losing sight and just getting the easy low-hanging fruit users, and instead getting users who you're closing the loop, is something we are very thankful of having MSDF on board. And of course, they also support us in various other ways, right? Because they work a lot in the impact space in India, so they're able to open a lot of doors for us. So the partnership with them is now coming close to almost 2 years, about 15 to 18 months, and it's been a perfect partnership, and we're very happy with that. And I hope that in future rounds, as we invest, we manage to keep a similar sort of investor relationship. Now looking ahead, right? I think so far it's been an exciting journey, but it's still very early days. I know the app has now been live for we're coming close to year 4 in the middle of this year, but the business model is still in a nascent stage. Right? We're still trying to figure out how we're going to make money. Even though it's been 4 years for the Android app, the 25 million users, 20 million were in 2018. So 2018 has really been our growth year, and hopefully that'll continue in 2019. But the building the business piece is very important. That's what we're working on now. So multiple exciting things we're working on. First is in line with the ecosystem change I mentioned. We're pushing hard for video content. It leads to more engaged user, it leads to faster learning, people find it more efficient, they spend more time on the app, etc. And it's only getting better and better. More people are getting smartphones. If they're not getting smartphones, that's what they're getting geophones. So we're able to reach out to them, they're watching videos, they're learning from it, etc. And we're also trying to get them to connect with teachers. Second big thing we're trying to do, and part of the closing the loop, we're trying to work with employers to help them get jobs after they finish our courses. And then of course, the most important thing is 25 million needs to get to 100 million. So what are the growth hacks that we can do there, and how do we get there? Because this is a business that needs hundreds of millions of users to really have the impact we want to have, and also to reach a scale where it makes business sense. So from both those aspects, getting to that 100 to 100 million users is extremely important. So very stressful but very exciting times ahead, and we're looking forward to 2019. I think there's a ton of exciting things we are doing. India as a space, of course, is super exciting, and I think it's just going to continue to be there. And I think the education space now, I've been working in the education space for almost 5 years, and we get to interact with various other large edtech players. Of course, there are a lot of companies doing a lot of awesome things, reaching out to a vast majority of India. So I think even though that's happening, the other small caveat is we're barely scratching the surface, right? Including the Byju's of the world are barely scratching the surface. There's so much more that can be done. And tying back to my initial statement, right, that in my mind, education is the biggest enabler, and hopefully we know technology has the ability to revolutionize education. It's just how efficiently and when we manage to revolutionize education using technology that excites me the most, and hopefully it'll have a big impact in the following years, not just for us but for various other edtech players in the country. Well, thank you so much guys for tuning in. That's the enguru journey so far. Hopefully a lot more to come. I hope you guys enjoyed it. From early days founding project Vahana to now reaching 25 million users. It's been an extremely exciting journey. Please do leave any feedback, any questions. I'll try and get back to you as soon as possible. And of course, if anyone's looking to learn English, please do point them to the Enguru app and give us any feedback that you have. Thank you.